I'm Yo-Yo.
And I'm Katia. Welcome to our podcast.
Each week we learn from the experts about all things women's health and happiness.
We are two very normal, imperfect women.
Navigating this crazy thing called life.
And trying to stay happy and healthy while we do it. So, grab a cuppa.
Or tidy away that pile of laundry.
And enjoy our discoveries.
Hello and welcome to another podcast.
Yes, welcome back and welcome to our new listeners. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. This is episode 58.
Oh yes, forgot to introduce the number.
Yeah. So we're getting so close. I'm excited that we're...
what? What's
more?
More.
More episode, close to 60, close to 70. I'm excited that we're now closer to 100 than we are to 0.
Yes.
If you kind of go from 50.
Yeah.
Anyway, today
we've got a great take, actually, on something we hadn't heard about before. We're talking about hypnotherapy, but combined with cognitive behavioural therapy, which we hadn't heard about.
It's really interesting. So we talked to Jo Pitkin about how she combines these two therapies in a really successful way. And like in my mind, these two things had always been very separate.
Yeah.
But Jo combines them with amazing results in her clients.
Yeah, and she does it because she knows it makes a difference. So Jo's background is that she had gone through a lot of therapies in her past, and she's tried a lot of different types of practices, and she found that CBT helped her fix herself and the destructive kind of behaviours and get better. And then the hypnotherapy also allowed her to relax in a way that nothing else did, and put her in a really good state. So she's now taken all that knowledge and expertise that she's gone through and found this like power combination.
Yeah, it's like a power couple.
Yeah.
Power couple of therapies.
Yeah, it is. We're both making a very good, gesture with our hands. Yeah.
But so Jo, amazing conversation with her. She trained in 2020 and she has
her level 4 diploma in cognitive behavioural hypnotherapy from the general practitioners of hypnotherapists. Probably said that all wrong, but you know where I'm going. But yeah, so she works with children.
She works with children and with adults, with men and with women.
And from all over the world.
Yeah.
She has got some amazing referrals as well from all different things. So the kind of things she looks at for people is stress, emotional eating,
Imposter Syndrome,
alcohol,
nail biting,
and just
emotional
performance anxiety,
eating.
so many different things. And I think if you even just look at her referrals and her like kind of testimonials on her website, she is incredible what she does, and she's onto it. She definitely has combined got the winning ticket with this combination, because it just sounds like it will make a difference when you hear and the practical tips she gives.
Yes, and that's another thing. So she does talk a lot in this episode about what she does in her therapy, but throughout this episode she gives practical tips for people to do at home as well, not just come to my therapy sessions. So
this is what I do, this is what you can do.
There are practical things in there for all the listeners.
Yeah, and she highlights a lot of things that some people don't know that they have an issue, or they don't know, like we talk about imposter syndrome and things, and people don't really know, might not be at the point where they might feel they want to change something, but they don't know what's wrong with them, and actually where can they go. And this is one of those places to go and try and sort things out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yes, I love this conversation, and also it was just a nice chat.
It was. Jo was a breath of fresh air, actually.
Just a lovely chat with Jo about a very serious topic, very useful, but it was good interaction.
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
Yeah. So we enjoyed it, and we hope you'll enjoy it too. Good evening, Jo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, ladies. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, it's really interesting to have you on. We've only had one hypnotherapist on before.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you, because I'm sure everyone takes it in a slightly different angle. And I know that you combine hypnotherapy with cognitive behavioural therapy, which I find fascinating. So could we dive straight in? Why do you combine these two? Oh, first of all, maybe what are these two therapies, and why do you use them together sometimes?
Yeah, so CBT is it's a form of therapy. It's a talking therapy, but it looks at how everything is interconnected. So how our thoughts affect how we feel, which then in turn has an effect on our behaviour. So we take a really straightforward sort of example for that. Take nail biting, for example. Oh, I hate the look of my hands. Why can't I do anything about this? Why do I keep doing it? What's wrong with me? Other people seem to give up biting their nails so easily. Why am I still doing it? And all this sort of negativity creeps in, or is such a habit that we don't even know that we're doing it. There's such familiar thoughts. And then as a result, we maybe feel really tense. We maybe then get really angry with ourselves, feel really frustrated, feel a bit ashamed. And then what do? We bite our nails more because we've locked ourselves into this unhelpful way of thinking. And the same applies with sort of emotional eating or drinking or feeling overwhelmed, feeling like we can't cope, we're not good enough, other people are doing it better than us. And it's these patterns of thoughts that create sensations such as, people often complain that it sits in their stomach, so it can feel like a washing machine or like a clench in the stomach. For other people, it sits in the chest and they can't quite breathe, or their heart rate is going like the clappers. For a lot of people, it sits in their jaw, or they maybe grind their teeth at night. So there's kind of physical sensations that come from these thoughts as well. And then often the behaviours can be things like doom scrolling to distract ourselves, drinking, often just isolating ourselves, feeling like we don't really want to be with people. So we find ourselves in these vicious cycles. And so what CBT does is identifies the circle that you're in, identifies what the sort of core message is. It's often a feeling of being not quite good enough, not deserving, not worthy, not being able to cope, so weak or not strong. And we look at those and then we separate the facts from the feelings, who you are, what is true about you, what you actually do and achieve in your life, that maybe this worry, this anxiety or stress totally blinkers you from, cannot allow you to see it, like a tunnel vision away from what else is true. And so CBT looks at what is real, separating those facts from feelings, and gives you more of a perspective about your life and what is factually accurate. It really looks at sticking with the facts. It doesn't so much looks at reflecting back on past experiences. And so it's quite a future focused, goal setting type of therapy. And for a lot of people that come to me and I say, what would you like to achieve from working with me? They're often saying, I don't really know. They've got no idea other than that something is very wrong with their lives. And so more often than not, they just say something, but not this. And then we build from there as to what they would like life to look like instead. I work with a lot of people with imposter syndrome, a lot of overwhelmed mums doing the juggle, the mental load. And they're just like, just make me feel better because I can't cope. Yeah. So I use CBT to look at more helpful, more purposeful thinking patterns so that you feel better and then behave in the way that you want to. And I use hypnotherapy to support it. There's so many different types of hypnotherapy out there. I know you had that amazing speaker before, Anne-Marie. And so I use hypnotherapy to rest, to soothe the nervous system. When you feel like your skin's crawling and your hair's on fire, I help to introduce or remind your system of what rest feels like. And the more that you're able to recognize truly resting, you actually feel more energized, more motivated, but a bit like when you've had a really decent night's sleep, everything seems a bit more possible and you feel a bit more capable. So, the shortest hypnotherapy session that I do with people is 7 minutes. For other people, it could go up to sort of 50 minutes or an hour, but it's just to soothe that system right down and actually build that kind of motivation that's a better way of living your life with effective rest. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a long answer.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And because like I can understand the hypnotherapy and resting and then calming the nervous system down. But how does the cognitive behavior therapy, is it literally that your brain just needs to be reminded of that constant, like, it is not real life that you're thinking, it's not true? Is that the science behind it? Is it that you need to talk it out and hear it?
It's actually so using the CBT with the hypnotherapy, what we do together during the CBT session actually informs what I say during the hypnotherapy session. It's really important to me, and all my clients are just sort of fascinated by how many notes I take during sessions, because it has to be my clients' words. I'm not there to tell them what they should be doing or how they should be behaving or feeling or thinking. I draw out from them what it is that they want, what life would look like. And I know you had Ro Field and Cook on, and so I did a CBT and she's talked about this on her own podcast, but with her, she just wanted to be able to go to the park with her then 3-year-old and be present and enjoy it and not feel like she had to race to the next thing and that she didn't have time to be in the park because she had so many things on her to-do list. So actually we took that as a goal from the CBT session, and what was her barriers and what was getting in her way, what were the unhelpful thoughts. And then we used the hypnotherapy to be able to walk her through that, almost like a mental rehearsal. So she described the park to me. She described the layout, this time of day, what Freddie was doing, everything. And so I talked her through it during hypnosis. So then she could enjoy it, and she could feel like that's going to be a really special moment when I do it. And she said when she did then do it, she cried, because she was just like, this is what I wanted. This is how I want to connect and be present with my child. So I draw through the CBT what they want and then kind of reflect it back during hypnosis.
That's such an interesting approach, and I've never heard of that before, actually. In my mind, hypnotherapy and CBT were two very different practices, separated by very different people. So I love hearing how you're combining this. And
it's very clever.
Yeah, it's very clever. And the hypnotherapy is kind of like a test run. You let people visualize and feel what that feels like to do it, and then they believe that they are able to do it.
Well, it's kind of like, I've done this before. It is that, like I say, that mental rehearsal. And actually, when you do plot through almost minute by minute what's happening, you are able to kind of think everything else that I was worried about or fixated on is less important than this moment. So it helps your whole system to just sort of be more analytical and reflect on what's really important to you. There's always going to be dishes and deadlines, like you can't escape that, but taking those moments are really important.
Amazing. And you say the majority of people coming to you are overwhelmed people, generally with children.
Juggling juggling children, I'd say the overwhelm of that or the imposter syndrome. They're probably the most common things that I see. Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about.
I was just going to say, is that a more common? Is that more recently you've seen more of this, or is it always since you've been practicing?
I would say it's become more frequent that women particularly are stopping and saying, I can't carry on. I can't carry on. So I need to do something, because actually when they understand that the better or the more energy or the resilience that they have, that the whole sort of family unit wins.
Yeah.
When they're more rested, when they're more feeling like they can cope, they are more present, they are more patient.
I keep trying to think about 30 years ago, would it have felt this way for a lot of people, and did they not talk about it? And 50 years ago, was it the same? I just keep thinking is there a trend like, and there kind of must be, in the fact that more women go back to work, maybe if you're talking about just women, and then there's more like you're further away from family a lot of the time as well, so there's that support network. So yeah, it just sounds like, but everything you're saying just sounds so relatable with like just even from just everything you've said so far. I'm like, I completely understand why people feel that way.
And part of CBT is that it is goal setting. It is looking at those barriers and where you want to be. And so I talk a lot about, what's getting in your way and how do we get it out of your way. And that could be anything. I had one client who marked the end of his day with a shot of tequila, and that's the only way his system knew that he had stopped work. He couldn't trust himself to believe that was the end of the day. It was tequila that was the habit that he created. So lots of different people have lots of different situations that they want to explore, but essentially CBT is a very short therapy because we're very clear on the goal up front, even if it's not this. And we know, okay, so that is the benchmark that we're working with. So now every single step, there will be a strategy. They are given a plan. We check in. They have inter-session support, because the most important thing to me and what I found during therapy is therapy happens when you need therapy when you're not in the therapist room. And then there's quite a lot of pressure because you may have an appointment on a day where you feel really good. And you're like, wasting money and time. And then the very next day, you might be like, why wasn't my appointment today? I feel terrible. So I make sure there is that inter-session connection. I also offer like 15-minute sessions because not everybody has time to do the full 90 minutes with me. But making sure that they can WhatsApp me, voice note me, tell me what's going on whilst it's happening. And then I take that effort of them having to remember how they felt, 4 days later or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know if you don't mind going back a little bit before you mentioned imposter syndrome. I'd like maybe to see if we can just discuss that a bit, because could you define what it is? And maybe our listeners might not know it, or they might know it but don't know if it applies to them. How does someone feel with imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is really cruel because it lives basically in comparison. And comparison is the thief of joy. And so whether it is in the workplace, some people say they're waiting to be found out, or whether it's parenting.
Found out like a fraud, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly that they're going to be rumbled, that somebody's going to discover that actually they're not good enough to do their job. With parents, it's often sort of that feeling, not to be flippant, but just kind of like, when are the grown-ups going to arrive? I don't know that I'm entirely clear that I'm doing this parenting right, because Instagram tells me I should be doing this and TikTok tells me I should be funny with it. And, there's a lot of influences that make you feel like you are not the right person for whatever job it is that you're doing. And therefore you become heightened to where you are, I don't, obviously being a therapist, I'm not going to like the word failing, but where you believe you're not living up to some standard that you've created.
Where you think you're not perfect and you're expecting maybe perfection.
Perfectionism is a whole other one.
Oh, really?
But actually, when I work with perfectionists, I really, and I'm very clear to say to my clients, I'm not just here to be positive Polly, like that will be really annoying. But actually, with perfectionists, I'm like, brilliant, you're going to do CBT perfectly, so let's go.
Interesting. So let's delve into perfectionism in a bit, but just finishing off the imposter syndrome, Are there any actionable tips that people who related to what you just said can just do at home? What can they tell themselves if they are having these episodes of, someone's going to find out that I'm actually not qualified to do whatever I'm doing, and it's only a matter of time, and
Yeah. It comes back to the CBT basics of facts, not feelings. So we can tell ourselves, be kind to ourselves, be gentle with ourselves, stick to the facts. What is real? Are you qualified? Where are you not qualified? Could you train? Do you want to train? Would it help to train? Like, what is real about what you are telling yourself? If you're telling yourself your colleague is better than you, what are they better than you at? And fairly and factually, what qualities do you have? So just keep it as factually accurate as you can. If you can't be kind, if you can't be kind, if you can't be fair, be factual.
So kind of catch yourself in those thoughts and be like, okay, like fact check that thought.
Fact checked. Yeah.
And be like, okay.
I say a lot to my clients, is that true? How much CBT loves percentages, because it actually helps to just work out or balance how much you truly believe something. So if you were to say, I really think my colleague's better than me, I might say, okay, how much do you believe that? Like 80 out of 100, 90 out of 100, and they're probably about 70. He's not always that good at hitting deadlines. I'm like, okay, so 30%, you're reasonable at your job or good at your job? Like, what do you say? So it really drills down into the clarity of language. So CBT loves a percentage to work out what's real, and also sets a benchmark. So then we know if 30% becomes 40%, that becomes 60%. But it also loves language. So part of my job is when people so naturally use negative language against themselves, I'm there to catch it. So if they say, I'm not very good at, I will say, aren't you? Can you give me an example? I have one client who said, I let myself down sometimes. And so I said, how badly do you let yourself down? 100%. Okay. When was the last time you let yourself down? It was a decade. The last time she'd let herself down. So I was like, okay, let's do the maths. 10 times 365. So how many days have you not let yourself down? And what were you doing when you were not letting yourself down? So then we look at what had held that belief. And actually it was shame. She was embarrassed and she didn't ever want to go back there again. So then we looked at the chances of her not going back there and what it was about her character that would make sure she didn't go back there again. She was really hard on herself.
Oh, bless her. But I can understand why you are, because you're just in your head and that's all you think and feel about. But why? I don't. You might not know the answer to this, but it's just because I think I can understand why, with the whole when you need the fear and things come in and anxiety, your body's telling you something, you're stressed. But why do we feel like we need to compare ourselves? Like, it's such a, like, I don't understand, like, why, but we do, everyone does, like, 100%.
Even if you know you shouldn't, it's just like this natural tendency, isn't
but
it?
I don't know, I'm like, what, like, back in our psyche, in the caveman days, caused us to need to compare ourselves?
I guess somebody had more berries. Somebody had a better woolly mammoth throw than us. I think.
Do you know what I mean?
Again, I think it depends what the comparison is. For some people that have that inner driver, comparison is a really good way for them to be like, yeah, I want what they've got. I'm ready. I want to do this. And actually they can almost take the comparison from that person's experience and be like, okay, yeah, I can learn from them a little bit.
And use it in a positive way. Use it in a positive way then.
And that's exactly it. It's, are you comparing in a way that is helpful and has purpose? Or are you comparing yourself in a way that just makes you feel dreadful? Because both are important. One's, it's so down to the individual what comparison means to them.
Yeah, I've never really thought, because comparing can be that kind of like positive of like, I want to achieve that as well, and like, I
guess,
could achieve that, and I believe I can achieve that as well, and I'll feel
Yeah.
good about it.
and that's the motivational bit. Like, for example, the Olympics. It's like, you don't want to compare yourself with these crazy, amazing athletes, but it is somehow on a level can be motivational. If you see really fit people, you're like, oh, I'm gonna
But that's
work
what,
on that. Yeah.
you know, part of kind of the joy of that is that there could be young athletes watching them going, that is what I want. Whereas other people are sat there going, could never do that.
I know, and it makes them feel worse. It makes them feel rubbish about themselves, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I would want to know what's missing, where they weren't achieving what they wanted to achieve, and why. What was getting in their way of that?
Oh, you're a detective.
You are a detective.
Oh, I'm so
Very
nosy.
interesting.
I am so nosy.
Well, you're in the perfect job because you can just ask questions, can't you?
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic.
So anecdotally, you've said you've had both men and women. Do you see any differences in the type of things they come in for? Like, women tend to have a certain, like, we feel like this, and men are like, no, I see this trait?
Not so much a difference in what it is they're coming to see me to overcome, but definitely a difference in the approach to it. So, and these are really, really broad sweeping statements, but generally women will be, once they've made the decision to invest in their time, their energy and their money, they really want to be curious and explore, like, where did this start? Why do I feel this? What else can I feel? What else can I improve? The men that I've seen generally want to know how long it's going to take, whether they have to cry, and what the plan is. And generally men I will see in 3 sessions, and they are content with the plan that we have made to overcome their unhelpful way of thinking. They just want to problem solve and crack on. Whereas, you know, the men that I see, I check in with, they will check in with me, and that's really great. They refer me, so I know that they're happy. But generally women, every so often I'll get a, hey, I was just thinking, this unhelpful thought popped into my head and I knew just what to do. So I thought I'd say, you know, they keep in touch.
Yeah.
Whereas men just tell their mates.
Yeah. But I guess that's the male and female energy, isn't it? Men are the problem solvers. They want a solution. They're going to apply that solution, and then they're done.
Yeah, they're like, I've got my homework. Thank you. I will do this now. I can see that. And women, as you said, like, the thoughts be like, oh, I'd like to know what triggered that, and that's another thing I've got to, and I'd like to come back and just or like, can I just check in? I just want to make sure that's all hunky dory.
Yeah. Interesting. I've got a few things that I'm curious about. So you mentioned right at the beginning things like nail biting. So I have been a nail biter forever, and I don't know, is it? And I went through a little phase. They're not too bad. I went through a phase where I managed to stop, and it was relatively easy. It was actually a phase where I had fake nails on for so long, like acrylic nails, and that they were so hard, I just could not bite them. And I just got out of the habit. And then once the acrylic nails came off, I didn't bite anymore. But then it eventually did come back. And I'm curious, in your experience, is it always related with stress, or are there other things that can be causing it for everybody?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's a whole range, and often people will have been nail biting for a really long time. And I think for a lot of people that have done it since they were children, it's an observed behaviour. So you may have seen somebody in your family or friendship group that was their response to stress or worry. You know, as children, we had to do our exams, we had to stand up and do the play or play the instrument or something. There are tense moments where you feel like you want to do something, but it is something that can come as a result of extreme stress as well. but where so with nail biting, it's quite a straightforward kind of habit reversal process that we look at that combines CBT with hypnotherapy, because again, I would want you to see yourself through that mental rehearsal that I talked about as not being a nail biter and just doing whatever you wanted to do. Not just seeing yourself with pretty nails, but just actually seeing yourself managing the stress in the way that you want to. And that makes you feel in control during those moments. Because often we may have been biting our nails and it's only 10 minutes in that we realize we're even doing it. It's so sort of ingrained in us. So it's quite a straightforward habit reversal process combining the two that I do. But what I would want to understand is why it's important to you. A bit like the reel I did today, talking about the lady, Emma Nicolay, who has the wetsuit phobia. I was saying, why does she want to get over this wetsuit phobia? So again, it's like, why is it important to you to not bite your nails? Is it so that you can feel like you've achieved it, you've got a grip on it and you are in control and you do not do that anymore? Is it because actually you've got a nail varnish you'd quite like to look good on? Is it because you want to save money with acrylics? Like, what is your motivation? Why is it important for you to beat this? And so then we kind of explore what it would mean to you if you achieved that and what difference that would make a little bit, and especially with parents, it's breaking that habit with them as well. Especially if you then see your child biting their nails, you kind of have that, did I do that?
Yeah. And that could be a strong why as well, actually.
Passing it forward is a big motivator for people, especially with bad habits or, stress responses or worry. A lot of parents don't want their children to worry.
We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We'd love to help more women out there, so please subscribe, rate and review, which helps more people find us. And share this episode with any friends who you think will enjoy it too. Thank you. And without further ado, here's the rest of the episode.
Actually, I have a good example. One of my really good friends is really afraid of all insects, like spiders, flying things. She's very allergic kind of person, so she's allergic with wasps and bee stings. But she told me once that when she realized her daughter had this freak out reaction to something flying into the house. That was the day that she decided, I'm going to really check my reactions around the children. I'm not going to flip because a wasp comes near me because it's having this effect on my child.
Yeah, but I don't flip out my mind. Edie's my oldest daughter, my 5-year-old, is near a spider.
Yeah.
She's like, get it out! And I'm like, it's fine. And even Neil's pants, I don't know where she's got this.
She may have got it from a peer.
Yeah,
maybe.
On peers, yeah, maybe.
But also they are unpredictable. So they will scuttle and move in ways that can be a little bit overwhelming. So it doesn't always have to be because they have a phobia. Okay. They might just be like, not like them. That thing does not work for me.
Fair enough. I do understand that too. I'm really calm. She's like, is it a spider? I'm like, it's fine. I've never been so chilled about a spider. Normally I would be like, I'm like, it's fine, just leave him. He's not doing anything. And then but sometimes I'm like, but I'm obviously I've obviously chilled it down, because if I was on my own before having children with Neil, I'd be like, there's a spider, can you please move it? Or I'd move it out of the way in my house. But now I'm trying to show that I don't mind living with spiders.
Oh,
yeah. They're fine to share my house.
Spiders are such a tricky one, because there's so many different types of therapies that you can do, like exposure therapy. Like if you just hang out with a spider for the day, then by the end of the day you'll be less bothered than you were at the beginning of the day. But it's it is that unpredictable thing. You can just be like, really? I was just getting comfy in my bed. I know you're right there. I really don't want you there.
Don't know where you're going to be going if I close my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, and again, that's sort of part of the CBT language. Is it a phobia, or do you just not like it? A lot of people that come to me will have given themselves a label, attachment styles that they have given themselves. And actually CBT is just interested in the person, not the label. So they will say, oh, but I have imposter syndrome. I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me about you. What are you? Tell me about you and work, because the imposter doesn't mean anything. It's just you in this room. So I try to sort of step people back from labels, and phobia can be a very big label for people.
Yeah, I can imagine if someone labels themselves as having a phobia of spiders, it's just self-perpetuating, isn't it? And kind of,
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that is always scared, and then they are always scared.
Yeah.
Have you got any practical tips for anyone listening who might feel like they have a phobia of spiders?
Or anything.
Or anything, a phobia of anything, but maybe maybe as an example, you can use some kind of insects or...
Yeah, I suppose really it's really observing, a little bit like the same with unhelpful thoughts or unhelpful feelings. It's just to observe it. If you actually looked at a spider, you'd be like, that does 8 legs really work for you? And where is that web coming from? If you approach it more from a place of curiosity than fear, if you can help yourself from a distance that feels comfortable for you, but rather than that fight or flight fleeing sensation, if you can go, all right, I see you, I see what you're doing. And the same with the unhelpful thoughts. You're like, oh, okay, I'm unworthy today. Great, brilliant, thanks so much. It's being able to almost sit above it and observe it. So if you can help yourself to just stay, not necessarily holding a bug or a spider, but just go, okay, you're a creature, that's you, and that's what you're doing, and helping your whole system to sort of soothe and regulate will also then help you to stop feeling in that sort of sympathetic going at 100 miles an hour feeling. Just pause and observe from a distance of safety, or what feels right or comfortable for you, and just really kind of think, is that really that scary? It's quite small.
Yeah, good point.
Good, yeah,
good
it's
tips.
a good way of doing it. It's quite practical when you think about it, being like, just calm everything down.
CBT is so practical. It's really, really practical.
Yeah. And I think some people can get so far into I definitely do, when you get so far into your thoughts and everything, the practical things feel so far away. It just feels so far to try and grasp them. It actually sounds so simple, but when you're in that spiral, you need someone to guide you through it like that, or be like, calm it down, because you just get lost, don't you?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes part of the reason why CBT looks at the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors is because it's not always easy to catch our thoughts because they're so normal. So you might catch yourself running from a spider going, hold on, no, I'm not, it's really small, I'm going to take my time. I'm just going to slow everything down. Or if you notice kind of that sense of dread or dead weight in your stomach, or feeling that you can't quite take your breath, being able to just pause and go, what's happening? What just check in and be like, what is true right now? Work with quite a few people who are scared of public speaking, or have a phobia of public speaking. And so just being able to identify exactly, as you said, those spirals that they find themselves in just before they get on stage, and then find out why they're going on stage, and how, I've worked with opera singers to professors to, lots of different people that, especially post-COVID, they had such an interruption that fear and doubt got in their way. And so then to take the leap to go back out felt like a big hurdle. So just being able to pause in those moments, identify where the discomfort is, be it thought, feeling, or behavior, and interrupt it. But with something factual, not positive. Positive is hard and draining, but factual.
I said everything you're saying is quite important to normalise, especially if you said you've had a wide range of people. It's kind of just literally just made me feel immediately like It's so normal to feel like this.
Yeah.
And actually, do you think there's something more as a society that we can do to support others, like talking about it more or admitting when you feel a bit like that? Is there anything you think that we could do to make it feel more normalised? That
The big thing for me, with especially having girls, I've got a 12 and an 8-year-old, is not almost diminishing people's feelings or experiences, and it is with such good intent. That kind of, you'll be okay, it'll be all right, you've got this. It's that will for people to be okay that is very generous, but also adds another layer of, oh no, now they've been really kind and I can't let them down. Or adds another layer of pressure. So my wish for people is to be able to feel that they can be authentic, if not honest, authentic in how they're thinking, feeling, or behavior, and the other person saying, okay, what do you need? And asking what they need, rather than just wanting them to be okay and being so full of confidence and reassurance when actually it's not always helpful. So just being able to go, okay, what do you need? Tell me what you need.
Yeah.
Opens up.
Validating. So if someone is sad, kind of saying, I see that you're really sad right now. Like that, I'm here for you. You're really sad. Rather than, you'll be okay. Or
just have a good night's sleep.
Think about all these happy things. And,
think positive. Yeah. Okay, that's great. If I could, I'd do that.
Yes.
Yes. But with something, crying is such a, or sad is such a good example, because saying, what do you need? Some people, the last thing they want is a hug. They do not want to be touched. That's like,
don't touch me.
If you touch me, the floodgates will open.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's like, what do you need? Do you need a hug? Do you need me to distract you? Do you need me to cheer you up? Do you need me to shut up? What is it I can do for you in this moment?
Yeah.
Because it also has the knock-on effect that then they reflect it back, and then they go, that really worked well for me, and then they gift it to the next person.
This is such a lovely point, and I'm a little bit sad that this is a women's health and happiness podcast, because I think a lot of men could learn from this, because it's often the guys very well meaning, but they want to. Are you okay?
I've got a really bad story that one of a guy friend was like telling me a sad story, and I panicked and I didn't know what to do, and like I basically, as you said, forced a hug on him, but like basically rugby tackle him into this hug, like, and I was like, he was like, ow, that really hurt, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I should have actually just said, and then I panicked that he'd be like, I don't want a hug. So I was already like moving to give a hug because that's my default, but I should have been like, what do you want me to do? I'm going to ask questions next time.
Yeah, and this was a guy, was it?
Yeah.
Did he open in floods of tears? Or
no, he was fine.
Okay?
I think my awkwardness and rugby tackle more was like shocked him out of any sadness.
Oh, there you go.
which may have been exactly what he needed.
Honestly, it's so embarrassing, but like it really did happen. It was actually quite recent as well. Like it did like last 3 weeks.
Do not worry, because I am such a hugger, and when, especially with friends, if they're having a tough time, and they could just see me like, I'm ready. I just need to hug you, even though you said please don't hug me now you have to. And they're like, come on, just get it over and done with.
Yeah, but then it makes a funny thing, I suppose. So it alleviates all like the pressure of the emotion that was before, because it becomes a bit of if they can see you twitching, because I'm like that. I'm like, I just need to hug people if they ever give me a hug.
Yeah.
You will feel better, I promise.
But it's that authenticity. I'm guessing the guy that you're talking about also wasn't surprised by your response. Like, was he just like, there she is?
Yeah, he was like, all right, great.
And he wouldn't. The lovely thing is, he wouldn't have told you. As in, he told you knowing that was what you were likely to do. So he still wanted to tell you.
Yeah, but I think I definitely, I am a hugger. I should maybe, process it. But I luckily made it so awkward that it became funny. But in that situation, but I could learn something from that.
Although, I guess if people know you as a hugger, it's
Yeah,
expected,
yeah.
isn't it? It's expected.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I mean, I was
Sorry, Brian.
sorry, no,
I was
no,
too
no.
busy
I
laughing,
was
embarrassed.
curious about the gender difference, because in my experience, that the male energy likes to fix things. Like you're saying, how like if they come to you for therapy, it's okay, step, step, step. I do that and I fix myself in a way. And so actually, I think guys could learn from this a lot. Like actually, say, I see that you're sad, or I see that you're having a tough time. What can I do? Validating it rather than going, but think about this positive thing. Or,
Why don't you just do this?
yeah, then you'll be fixed.
I'm married to a recovering rugby player, and he just wants to fix everything. And he will say things like, just don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, okay, brilliant. Problem solved. Sure. Let's just do that. And it's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. And I will prompt him and he will begrudgingly say, what do you need? But you can see it really pains him, and it's like kind of through gritted teeth. And sometimes I'll say to him, sometimes it's just a hug. And he's like, oh. But essentially, I'm trying to show him also that we're raising two girls. I don't want them to think that the male has the answers, that they go to him with the problems and he fixes it. I want him to show them how they can explore finding their own solutions, which really, really annoys him. So yeah, I know exactly what you're dealing with. And again, using CBT, and I was saying about, it's really important that I use their words. So I've worked with quite a few military guys. So finding the sort of military description of it. So sometimes there was one, he said it was like an observational tool that they used in the military, was like being a condor, the bird that flies over. And so I was talking about, in those moments where he was kind of in a stress situation with his partner, he almost had to take a military condor view of it. There's another one which is OODA, which is a whole other military acronym that I had to Google. But yeah, he had to condor it. And again, it was just that pause. Just stop. Don't go straight into fight or flight. Just pause, take a breath, look at what's going on. And in his language, that was that military condor: observe, orientate, decide, and then act. That's OODA. I know it now.
Ooh,
So
yeah, I've heard of that.
So getting him to understand it in a way that he could understand it is part of the challenge for me, because I'm not here to just tell people what they should do. I need to know what resonates with them specifically. A lot of the city guys, I will work with them on their laptops whilst they're in their desks, sort of 8-9 o'clock at night. And they talk a lot about moving the needle. If they could just move the needle a little bit. So I'm like, okay, so you've got this drink situation. So what if you could move the needle and push back, taking that first shot by 15 minutes? What would that mean to you? So again, it's finding out the words that work for you. And it's really hard when you're married to them.
Oh, yeah. But actually, from the example you just mentioned, what about drinking habits and things? If there's any listeners, and eating, yeah, drinking and eating. If there's anyone listening to this episode who would like to maybe change their habits around how much alcohol they drink, are there any actionable tips that you've learned from your clients that might help them today?
Yeah, I would. Again, coming at it from a position of curiosity. And actually, I was listening to a nutritionist the other day who works. So I work with people who have IBS, because stress and IBS go kind of hand in hand. So I was chatting with her, and she was saying, tracking is so important for a nutritionist to understand what foods upset you or create inflammation. And actually, with things like alcohol or emotional eating, it's again that tracking of what is going on? What are the negative thoughts? What is this feeling of often hopelessness or helplessness with drinking and eating? Why is that message coming through? What's happened? Who's annoyed you? What stress was there during the day? What is it? So again, it's that kind of tracking, because once you can understand what you're responding to, we can understand where that sense of almost defeat is. And it's not a very nice word, defeat, but often that's how people feel with alcohol or food. And again, it's a bit of a label, I'm an overeater, undereater. And actually with the emotional eaters that I work with, I have to say, I always do a chat, like a telephone chat beforehand, just to make sure that I'm the right therapist for them. They're happy to work with me, because it's really important that people do feel comfortable to work with me. That happens on the phone. And then when they meet me, especially if it's emotional eating, I'm like, yeah, I'm not skinny, but I'm really comfortable with myself. So if you're looking to be thin, I'm not your gal. If you're looking to stop this cycle of emotional eating and feel comfort within your own skin, your own body, potentially for the first time ever in your life, and actually start to take pleasure and enjoy food, then I'm for you. Let's go. Same with drinking. If you want to stop drinking altogether, that's not how I work. I want you to be able to have that glass of red with the amazing steak out for dinner with your partner. I want you to be able to have, this is very male heavy. I'm thinking of a previous client. I want you to have a beer whilst you're watching the football. As soon as you give yourself another label or a new label, you're then beholden to that. So actually, sort of tracking and looking at what it is that you want. Do you really want to be a size 6? Because do you like food? It comes back to that goal setting. So tracking what's going on, what makes you feel shit, what makes you feel defeated, what makes you feel like you can't do it, but comparison. Why are other people able to stick to diets and I'm not? Why are other people exercising more than me and I'm not? And that's only focusing on the negative. Let's just come back to also what is true, what you are capable of. Cannot tell you how many clients come to me and say, oh, I run all the time. And I'm like, so what do you like about running? Oh no, I hate it, but I do the running.
Oh,
and they're mentally
that's so
exhausted,
sad.
they're physically exhausted, and then they beast themselves out running as well. So looking at actually the other influences aside from therapy that actually kind of fills them up, makes them feel good. It's not necessarily yoga. It may be something more team related. It may be more sort of, like Row and the She Collective, some kind of connection there or accountability there. But it's actually just whatever it is, as long as it's, that you feel good. Maybe it is yoga for some people. It is not for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it's quite important that you find those things that you enjoy, and that then reduces the stress, because you're not forcing yourself into doing something like running and things like that. And then, as you said, that stress will build up because you're not actually enjoying it, and your body's like, this is going round. You're probably not having great thoughts. Same with like, you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't feel good doing.
Yeah. And it's giving yourself permission to just be you. And that's part of the imposter. That's part of comparison. It's like, you're really good. You're doing, I create, and all my clients really dislike this, but it really helps me as the therapist, but it also helps to fact check. So, as we're going through therapy, if they tell me that they sent a friend a birthday card, I go, okay, you're thoughtful, you're considerate, you're conscientious, and so by the end of kind of our therapy sessions, I've got quite a fact file that includes like diligent or fair, loyal, reasonable, logical, all these different things, but they have to be able to evidence them. So they would have to give me an example of a time that they did that thing. If they were diligent, when were they diligent? So diligent is true. So we build this kind of evidence base of just what is real, and all of these comparisons ignore all of that amazing, incredible list. So it's actually just starting off by just leveling off the playing field, not even, trying to make them feel good, but again, just factually accurate what is real about who they are and why maybe they could feel okay about that. Not good, because good can be a massive mountain, but just like, shit, I can't argue with that.
Yeah. It's like their little fact of like, this is how this is you, and this little bundle is you, and that's so unique to you as well, because not everybody will have all this.
It will be different for everyone.
That's really nice.
And it might, I'm sure it'd be really effective doing it with a therapist such as yourself, but to start with, people could do that also by themselves, to list and then find 3 bits of evidence to support that. And
absolutely.
as like a journaling exercise, like
when you really nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, it can be, sort of goes beyond gratitude, because there's a lot of gratitude journaling that goes on. And with the clients that do it, I ask them just to make a small tweak within their gratitude, that they start their sentences with, I'm grateful that I... and then whatever it is. So it is truly theirs. They are accountable, responsible for whatever it is that they're grateful for. And it takes practice. It can feel like a really big challenge for some of them to put themselves, it's really easy to be grateful for a roof over our heads, food on our table, but it's a bit to go, I'm grateful that I worked so hard and I persevered and I stayed employed and I earned money that put food on the table. Then makes it all yours.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, I struggle with gratitude things for that reason, probably. But that's a whole other episode of my psychology of why I could not possibly say that. And just because it's like,
maybe that's your homework this week.
Make me cringe.
You know how I said CBT loves language? I could not possibly say that. Could you just try? Because then you'll know that you can.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, point made. But it's true, yeah.
It's catching those moments. Because when you tell yourself, I could not possibly say that, then you've kind of banked it as a fact. So if you can debunk it, then you're like, got one.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. Oh, God.
Yeah. I kind of wanted, there was another topic I wanted to delve in, but we're getting close to our hour mark. But just quickly, at the beginning, you mentioned...
I have more questions too.
Another one as well. Oh, God. You mentioned perfectionism a little bit. Like there are some people who come to you with perfectionism.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say a funny thing that I tell myself that helps me. And I don't know whether that is helpful, but I always think the saying, fake it till you make it, helps me a lot. Because I just tell myself I don't have to be perfect at things. I can pretend to know what I'm doing, and then eventually I'll learn, and I will know what I'm doing after having done it. But I don't know if that's useful.
But then you're good at learning what you're doing. Like some people fake it to make it, and they never learn.
Maybe. What's your take?
I would do "Don't Dream It, Be It."
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's just a slight change in language, but it's kind of saying the desire, the will is there. Whatever you want to fake, whatever you want to dream, there's a reason why it's even sitting in your thoughts. There's something that is motivating you to do it. And whether you need the words, fake it to make it, to tip you a bit further forward, that's absolutely great. For me, it's more of a kind of don't dream it, be it, because just get on with it. It's possible. Everything is kind of within our capability. And, especially with perfectionism, so with my daughters, fail is first attempt is learning, is how we, so if they get bad grades, we're like, okay, first attempt is learning. So next, what do you learn? How do you adapt? What do you move? So, you know, it's again, just spinning whatever helps you to overcome those barriers. So if it works for you, do it.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks.
My question was, do you have any kind of pet peeves about, I don't know how, like CBT's like reviewed, or do you have any pet peeves of how people are very authentic? Just anything. Do you have anything in the industry that really like you like that annoys me, or you want to say debunk a myth potentially around hypnotherapy?
Oh gosh, I know you said we're coming up to the hour, so I'll try and keep it brief.
Don't worry if we go over. It doesn't matter.
There are some CBT therapists that are quite hard. CBT therapy can be considered, because it's quite short, it's quite concise. You know, you will have goals, you will have objectives, and my job is to make sure that we approach and deliver those in a way that is reasonable for you. Whereas some therapists are quite hard with the deadlines, the benchmarks, the homework. You know, not everybody needs to be piled on with homework. So again, part of my job is just to look at the person, not necessarily the rules necessarily of CBT. So that's something that I found. I had my very first CBT therapist for me in my 20s. So I went in and sort of told her my story, and she literally just said, "So what are you going to do about it?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to be like you." That's what I'm going to do. So again, that's sort of, make sure if you think CBT is something you'd like to explore, because again, you know, with some other talking therapies, you don't necessarily know when it's going to end. I had one psychotherapist for 8 years, and largely because I was too polite to say I wanted to stop. But again, that was a learning for me because I was in my early 20s. So now I know, and I always check in with people. It's really important that I do that. So making sure that you find the therapist that really sits comfortably for you, and being able to move and explore. And any good therapist will refer and recommend if you need that. So you might feel like, okay, yeah, I feel like I've got as much from this as I want to. Maybe now I just want to do something else, explore something else. Coaching, for example, amazing. Hypnotherapy, definitely still the people think that they're going to be in a trance, that I'm going to control them, that I'm going to force them to do things, which again is really part of why I use their words, not my words, because actually they feel more comfortable when they hear their own words being reflected. It's like you can see their whole system settle a bit more when they hear that it's their way of describing things, not my words. I also say to people, if you need to wriggle, scratch, get up and go to the loo. If a thought pops into your head and you think, I need to write that down because I'm going to forget it, just get up and do it. Because the effort of not doing something is so distracting. If you're just sat there going, oh, I've got an itch in my nose and I can't move, you're not listening to me. So just being able to move, and actually that then makes people feel more comfortable, that they're not locked in some horrible trance. It's not a trance. It's a focused attention that brings you to that mental rehearsal that we were talking to. And I could never make anybody do anything that they didn't want to, because your brain would naturally go, what did you say? No, thank you.
Yeah, my husband still thinks that hypnotherapy makes people like walk like a chicken, and I'm like, no, they're no.
That's magicians.
Yeah, but yeah. I think he jokes about it, really. He's winding me up when he says that. But
it's still that, you know, Darren Brown, for example, there's some amazing magicians and performers that do incredible things. Like, it's really, really impressive, the things that they do. But it's not therapeutic, it's entertainment. And there is such a difference there. And also, I have a really rubbish business of one person said I made them do something they didn't want to. Like, I'd be investigated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what about that question? One of your
the
favourite
bookworm.
ones. Yeah.
I always ask this. I'm a big bookworm. Could you recommend any books to our listeners, whether it's to do with CBT, hypnotherapy, mind, or it could be non-fiction? So it could be fiction. Sorry. So anything that you feel everyone should read.
Yeah, couple. So a lot of people that I work with, time, the overwhelm, the pressure. And so actually it's not actually about time management, but it's the book 4,000 Weeks. I don't know if you've seen that. And his name's Andrew, and I should have written it down. But I'll message it to you afterwards. But yeah, 4,000 Weeks is kind of, we all get essentially 4,000 weeks in a life. So what to do with those 4,000 weeks. And it's not an instruction manual. It's just an amazing book of stories and anecdotes. And it's really inspiring. But if you just want like that cup of tea and a blankie, then something I've read since a teenager with Maeve Binchy's Circle of Friends. And it's just like a warm hug, a cup of tea and a log fire all rolled into one. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. So yeah,
that's either my winter reading
anything that makes you feel good.
Is that a fictional book?
Yeah.
The second one?
I've not read it, but I've heard of it.
Okay, nice. Lovely.
Yeah,
she's look it up.
Maeve Binchy is an Irish author, and so all her stories kind of adjust that kind of relationships in small towns or small villages and sort of visitors that come in and out of these tiny Irish towns and villages. And she's just got a beautiful way of writing. So it's very gentle.
Lovely. Lovely. Yeah.
Nice.
Comforting, especially with winter around the corner.
I know.
Yeah. Well, how can our listeners find out more about you? Where can they find your kind of social media website? And then also, what can you offer? What kind of services do you offer?
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm at Jo Pitkin _CBH. And my website is jopitkin-hypnotherapy.com. But really what people can find from working with me is that the initial chat is always a free, I say it's 20 minutes. It never is. You've heard me. I can't stop talking and I love to natter and I'm nosy. So it's never just a 20-minute chat, but just to understand how CBT could support you with whatever your concern is, and so that you can really understand, because it's really scary thinking about starting therapy, like realizing I need to do something about this, I need to make a change. It can start to feel quite pressured or stressful or scary or worrisome from that moment on. So just being able to chat through and understand how I work, how I approach things, what you can expect from working with me, and just really if you could bear the sound of my voice. And I send everybody a free hypnotherapy recording, because firstly, to do hypnotherapy in front of somebody you've potentially never met before, it's really quite intense. So I send everybody a free hypnotherapy recording that they can try anywhere, just not when they're driving, just to see whether they can bear the sound of my voice, so that they can hear how I do it, so that they can understand that they're not locked in a trance or, doing the funky chicken. And just to see whether I'm for them, because it's so important that you find a therapist that you're comfortable with. And also, we can have that free chat, get a date booked in, and the worry or the anxiety, and then your brain will start saying, oh, no, I'm all right today, I don't need to do it. Oh, you're making a fuss, or she'll deal with people much worse than you. Why do you think you're so special? Or you can't spend this money. Whatever it is, doubt or niggles will creep in. And it's really important that if you get any of those, you can WhatsApp me, voice note me, call me, and just be able to soothe those unhelpful or intrusive thoughts right from the get-go. Because the more we can understand what we're working with, the more we can help reassure it. Everybody will say, I keep trying to block it out. I keep telling it to go away. And I'm like, brilliant. We know that doesn't work. Let's see what will work. What is the words that will help that voice, that worry, to just go, oh, okay, she's all right. Yeah, all right. I'll quieten down now. So I always approach things from being able to let people try before they really get into it.
Just really quickly, do you work just on an individual basis, or do you work with couples?
I work with couples individually. I don't do couple therapy, but I can absolutely refer and recommend. But yeah, I do work with couples individually, but always the wives first.
I could see how if I came to, I would be like that. I'd be like, you need to go.
That happens a lot because, but the great thing is the partners see the difference. And then they're like, oh, all right, okay, yeah. Because they're also saying, oh, do you know what? I didn't have to cry. I didn't have to sit and talk about the past. I didn't have to do this. I actually feel quite motivated and fired up and actually, sort of energized from it. And then they sort of feel more reassured or inspired to come and explore as well.
And do you do it over Zoom as well, or just in person?
Yeah, no, in person or on Zoom. I work with
both
people all over the world, and as long as they work out the time zones, then I'm happy to do that. I just don't like maths. I like words.
Fair enough. Well, maybe just finally, to you very personally, what does health and happiness look like?
Health and happiness. It's a cheesy therapy word, but it's contentment. Not happiness can feel sort of like a movable feast. You think you're happy, and then something will sneak in. And for me, when I think about contentment, it's just, or happiness, it's sitting on the sofa watching a movie on a Sunday afternoon with my girls, my husband, the dogs, and just enjoying the movie, not thinking I need to do the dishes, I need to iron the uniforms. It's just being in that moment, being present and just contented there. So that's happiness, the contentment that whatever anxieties, I'm human. Just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that there aren't good days and bad days, but that contentment that I know that whatever stress, anxiety, I will navigate. I will get support. I will move through it in a way that feels right for me, that I have my toolkit that fills me up and supports me. And that is my happiness, contentment. And health is pretty similar. Like I say, I'm not skinny, but I exercise. I enjoy food. I take pleasure from food in a way that food was so toxic for most of my life. So to actually enjoy food and take pleasure for it and look forward to it is amazing. And I know there's a big nutritionist sort of 80-20 thing. Just be really good, 80%, and then 20% let off. I'm never going to work within the confines of 20%, but I know that nutritionally I am educated and understanding about what good nutrition looks like. It's important for me to explore food and enjoy food with my children as well. So contentment with health. I do exercise, but I'm not going to go running and I'm not going to do yoga. I do my row 3 times a week and I'm contented with that.
Great. Yeah.
So and again, it's that accountability.
Yeah. And you know what? All the nutritionists we've had on this podcast all finished the podcast saying, you must enjoy the food that you eat. They all say that so wholeheartedly. So absolutely. Yeah.
And there's just on another book. So with my daughters, I'm getting them to make their own snacks now, and they think they're really unhealthy, but they're really not. But Lucinda Miller brought out Brain Brilliance, which is recipes and toolkits for brain development for children. Oh my gosh, the recipes in there. She does a sleepy smoothie, which my kids don't know helps them to sleep because they just think it's delicious. So again, it's not food, it's nourishment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Ooh, brain brilliance. I'm gonna.
Yeah, she's.
I'm like,
brain
yes,
brilliance.
I love brains and I love food and sleep.
Oh gosh, yeah. Magnesium foot rubs as well for your kids.
Oh.
If you do, that sends them off to sleep. But yeah, she's nature.kids.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's a good recommendation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been
My goodness,
a lovely
it's
chat.
flown.
I know.
Oh, it's been so nice. Yeah, it has. Thank you.
Time flies when you have fun.
It's been so
Definitely.
interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
as you can hear, I love to chat. Therapy sessions. This is why my therapy sessions are never an hour.
I love that.
That was never going to work.
Just shows that you're also a generous heart.
And just,
you're
authentic.
Yeah, I love it. So, but thank you so much. Keep in touch if you ever want to come on again. You're always welcome.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
Yeah, no, loved
And loved it. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thanks,
it.
ladies.
Bye, Jo. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, we hope that you loved this episode because we really enjoyed the conversation we had with Jo.
Definitely, really enjoyed it. It was just such a nice chat.
Yeah,
with
and
her,
a lot
wasn't
of
it?
yeah, it was, and a lot of takeaway points and reflections on your own life throughout. So it was a really lovely conversation, anyway. And Jo's just lovely. I can't say lovely so much, but like
lovely.
She's a breath of fresh air. But there was a lot to take home.
A lot of practical points.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think some
You're
stuff.
stroking my foot.
Am I stroking? I'm just stroking. I'm just wiggling my foot. I'm stroking.
Stroked my foot, and he was like.
Lots of practical points that I'm going to be thinking about, and just taking a little pause, bird's eye view. Yeah.
Yeah, and just she made me. Yeah, we'll talk about more on our Thursday episode. I was about to go into open my mouth. And something long spiel was about to come out, so we'll save that for Thursday.
We're parking our thoughts because we always discuss our real thoughts about the episode on the Thursday's weekly waffle.
Yes.
So that's where we're going to continue this discussion.
Yes. So we'll see you on Thursday.
Yes.
For now, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. And remember, as always, you can get in touch with us. Don't be a stranger. We'd love to have an email from you, a message on Instagram or anywhere else. If you have specific questions for Jo, we have email contact with her. So if you want us to ask her a question, just ask, and then we can answer that on another podcast. So don't be shy.
Yes, and if you think this episode will be useful to anyone else, please do share the podcast and the episodes for anyone you think will benefit from it as well.
Yes, please do. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we shall see you on Thursday.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening all the way to the end.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us on hello@healthandhappinesspodcast.com.
Or we'd love to connect with you on our Instagram, Facebook or TikTok pages.
You'll find the links to all our socials and more on our website, www.healthandhappinesspodcast.com.
And lastly, before you go, please give our podcast a rating and a review. It really helps others find us.
See you next week.
Bye.